There's nothing better than being a Raider fan and walking out of a stadium with a victory.
He is one of those guys that I would hate to have played against because he's not going to give up.
As he grabbed Gardner Minshew and said, "We got your back." That was leadership.
That black hole, we're counting on you. We're going to kick off right to you. Wherever we go, we're going right to you guys.
Welcome to Raiders Rundown, live from Raiders headquarters. I'm JT. Exciting day here with the Silver and Black. I'll get to that momentarily. Thanks for watching on the Raiders YouTube channel and all of our platforms here. We do this here every Wednesday, and excited to be here on such a big platform, to be in the heart and soul of Raiders headquarters here. We got a game to play against the Rams coming up in L.A. on Sunday, a Rams team that's coming off their bye, so we'll see what they look like, but a 1-4 team that has struggled with several injuries, just like the Raiders. Their injury report has got a lot of good players who are missing, maybe a couple of players coming back. So we'll dive into that with Levi Edwards a little bit later in the show. The head coach, Antonio Pierce, will join us this hour exclusively, and Lincoln Kennedy in a few minutes. But I want to dive into the breaking news. All day yesterday I covered the trade of Davante Adams to the New York Jets for a conditional third-round pick. The Davante chapter with the Raiders is currently closed. We wish Davante well, his family, his kids. He was a big part of this team here, but he wanted out. He moved out, wanted to play with Aaron Rodgers, and now he's a Jet, and we'll see what happens with the success of the Jets or not, if it changes that pick at all. But it is a big deal because he's a big-time player in this league, and the fact that he moved on, the Raiders now have to move on without him, and it's been this next man up mentality around here for a number of weeks. For a number of weeks, there have been guys who have been down, who haven't been able to play, other players elevated from the practice squad or backups who are on the 53, and they're trying their best. They're trying their best to compete and win football games. It's not about effort. It's about why the Raiders, who come out to these games ready to play, prepared, have a lead in Denver, have a lead at home against Pittsburgh, can't sustain that lead. What is the problem with getting off to a really good start, playing with focus and energy, scoring, and then once they get the ball, they come back, and then the Raiders really struggle with adjustments? That's got to get cleaned up. That's something I'll talk about with the coach coming up here in a little bit. But this is an opportunity for the Raiders. You know, you heard me for the first couple of weeks here chasing 500, right? The Raiders 1-1, 2-2. What can the Raiders do to get to 3-3? Well, that opportunity is come and gone. Now they're a 2-4 football team, and they're chasing 500. But an opportunity on a short travel trip to L.A. The Raiders own L.A., but they don't own SoFi Stadium. It's time they go in there and get a win. That'll get them to 3-4 with Kansas City and the rest of the schedule coming up, Cincinnati, Miami, the bye week mixed in. Now, this is a team that's hurting. There's a lot going on here with the loss of Davante Adams, the players that are still injured as they try to get these injured players back healthy. It's a big part of the team. There's a lot of inexperience. You have 12 years of experience combined for the wide receivers, hoping that Jacoby can come back as he's rehabbing an injury here. But Brock Bowers has been exceptional. He's really played great out of the gate. He's having an historic rookie year for a tight end. That's one of the strengths of this team. And we'll talk about this rushing defense with Lincoln Kennedy. So the Davante chapter is closed. And you were vocal on this because, look, you're either with us or you're against us. It seemed like Davante wanted out of here. And you can go, I don't care what people go back. Well, he wanted out last year, or when Netflix came out, or the baby. Forget about that. He's gone. He's out of the building here. But how do you think it has affected the team over the last couple of weeks? Because it was a distraction. And how do you think the team will react with Davante out of the building?
Well, the part that you said right there was key. It was a distraction, an unnecessary distraction. I can't imagine being in that locker room and being approached by media or someone else saying, how do you feel about Davante Adams? How do you feel about the situation? And when you have no control over it. Look, the fact is I wish the best for Davante. Tremendous talent. I'm sorry we lost him, but I've said before and I'll say it again. If you're not with us, you're against us. And if you don't want to be here, that's fine. Go somewhere else. Wish you the best, but that's it. I want people in the locker room who are ready to fight for what it means to be a Raider and for what it stands for to be a Raider, and for, more importantly, how it feels to sit on the shoulders of all the people, the great people that came before me, that came before them, and that they are Raiders. This is a very in my opinion, a very high valued position as far as reputation.
Yeah.
As far as what it represents to be a Raider. So I'm excited for the future for these young guys to go out there and show that they can move on without number 17.
Well, I can see it. For those who can't see who are listening, you got Jim Otto behind you on your wall, and we know how
Without a doubt.
tough it's been for
Mr.
you.
Raider.
Yeah.
And I'm wearing a shirt right today.
Look at that.
Otto.
I love it. I love it.
No doubt.
So the problem, Davante's gone, but other guys got to step up. So last week, Jacoby was out. The 1 and 2 were out. Davante's the one. He's gone. Jacoby's still fighting through an injury. We'll see. They didn't get the ball to Trey Tucker once. I couldn't believe that once. But Brock had another big game, and DJ Turner has been elevated. He's a pro, and he's out there running good routes. But, Link, they got to find a way. And you saw Aiden O'Connell. You called the game with Jason Horowitz. It was an interception late there, but the game got away from the Raiders after a 7-3 lead. 7-6. The Raiders put the ball on the ground, Dylan Lobby. And that's unfortunate for a young player in his first carry. Very unfortunate.
Yeah.
But T.J. Watt had a big game. What do you see when the Raiders get off to a good start on that first drive and you're calling the game, and then some play happens, and then the Raiders can't focus to stay in the game?
Well, Luke Getsy's got to make more, I guess, in my opinion, he's got to make quicker adjustments to the way the defense is going to play. Look, when you do something well, defenses take note, and they're going to try to shut it out. And you have to make adjustments. So if they do this is what we do. This is how you have to combat it. You can show the same formation. The problem is that the Raiders went to the well way too many times. They ran that little reverse 2 times successfully in the first half, and then the third time it got stopped. And unfortunately, the Raiders don't have the wherewithal, if you will, JT, that have a bunch of plays under their belt. They are still trying to figure themselves out. And because you lack that identity, and because you have that understanding and misfortune where you're going to try things to see if they work, it doesn't always pay well, because those guys on the other side of the ball get paid too.
Yeah.
So, when you saw last week's game against Pittsburgh, jumped out to a good lead, seemed to be well in control, but didn't have a backup when they needed to move the offense. The fact is, where we are, JT, right now, after a month and change of the season starting, we're at a place where this offense has not had any consistency really to stay on the field, aside from a couple of drives. When you mix that with turnovers, you mix that with penalties, you put the hurdle in front of you that's hard to overcome, if you know what I mean. And then that's what the Raiders are looking at right now. They need more plays. They need to figure out who they have all across the board, all 11 guys. Quarterback, offensive line, wide receivers, running backs. They need to figure out who they've got that can make things work, that can make positive plays, and they have to have them in there and have them available. The fact that this offensive line has been inconsistent for week 1 has something to do with it. The fact that the play calling has been inconsistent from week 1 has something to do with it. Quarterback play, everything going across the board has affected this offense, which now affected this team.
Absolutely. Lincoln Kennedy is our guest. Divine Diablo missed 3 games with the oblique injury. I thought he played well. 3 solo tackles, 3 assists, a sack. He had an interception that was unfortunately called back, but he made the play there. Good to have him back, and Spillane is having historic numbers in Raider history for tackles here. But getting Diablo back, Lincoln, I think is really important as we pivot to the Rams coming up. He was very active against the Steelers. We've
had an opportunity to see some breakout plays from good players that are going to be with the Raiders for some time. Malcolm Kuntz before his injury, Divine Diablo. I am so proud of Divine getting to where he is. Look, I think it was a godsend to have Spillane come over from the Steelers, because Spillane showed Diablo how to cover backs and tight ends out of the backfield. Now, this is a former safety in college. This is something that's going to be big for him going forward, and I thought he played tremendous. I honestly wish, I think the game would have turned out differently. If it wasn't for the Malcolm Butler penalty, that interception would have counted. He made a tremendous interception that you have to put on film, because there are teams that are picking on the middle of the field, most notably the hash routes that are going, and that's where the linebacker stays in this zone that Patrick Graham runs. I'm glad he picked that ball off, because he sends a message. I'm in there. I'm waiting. Spillane does the same thing. I think it's a good thing for the Raiders defense going forward.
All right, let's move on to the Rams. I'm very encouraged now. I don't look at stats for the first couple of weeks. They're trends. Now they're stats.
Right.
Wow, they have the lowest pass blocking grade in the league. 37.7. They got a great quarterback in Matthew Stafford, and they're dead last in rushing defense. So Let's start first with Stafford. We know how good he is. Cooper Kupp is going to try to play. He had one of the greatest seasons ever, like a Jerry Rice goat season a couple of years ago. So I think the Raider defense is going to try to get to Stafford, Lincoln, but what I'm confused with or concerned with is Stafford's arm angles and the ball comes out. If he sees a pocket breaking down, he's a veteran. He doesn't want to get hit anymore. That ball comes out very similar to Aaron Rodgers. It comes out fast. He can throw the deep ball, and he's very accurate.
Well, look for the Rams to take their shots at the deep ball because the Raiders play short and intermediate defense aggressive. And so they're not going to sit there and try to dink and dank you down the field. They're going to take some shots down the field to keep your safeties honest. So I look for that. But the big thing is, and this is what I go back to, JT, that unfortunately, this part of the season where we're at, we can't take solace in how any other team is struggling because the Raiders are struggling. And until you get your part figured out, you're not going anywhere. I don't care how inept the opposing team's offense has been up to this point. We have seen teams that have had breakout games, Carolina and Andy Dalton this past year.
Yeah.
We've seen teams that have come alive offensively, and the Raiders can ill afford to do that. So here's my thing. The offense is going to have to find a way to pick it up. They're still in a learning process to me. I think the Rams are an excellent opportunity because they have weaknesses. They have holes on their defense that I would certainly take advantage of and try to exploit. But, more importantly, you have to get some consistency offensively. We can't take any solace, in my opinion, on how any other team is struggling until we figure out what we got going on with our guys.
Fair point. Let's get to the Raiders' defensive pass rush. Max is healthy, and Max is pretty fired up. Max was always the leader on this team, even with Davante. I want to get that in. Okay, I want to get my opinion in. Max was the leader. It was not Davante. Davante was one of the faces of the franchise. Max is the undisputed leader, and Max is tied for fifth in sacks with 5.5 without Kuntz and Wilkins in the middle there. What do you expect to see from Max in this game? The pursuit, as we're watching here, is incredible. He's still got an engine that doesn't stop, but hopefully Tyree Wilson shows up. Hopefully someone else on the other side helps Max and get to the middle and get to Stafford.
Well, JT, the Condor does what the Condor does, but he can't do it alone. And the thing is that we've seen some impressive moments throughout this season. I think Trayvon Merrick has come along a lot way, along the way, and even with Marcus Epps being down, he's been able to hold up the middle. I think that needs to continue to go. And I think other guys need to pick it up. You talked about Spillane, we talked about Divine Diablo, we talked about other guys. Look, I've been impressed with Adam Butler. I've been impressed with John Jenkins. I've been impressed with, for the most, Tyree Wilson coming along. I think they're still a work in progress, but you're only going to go as far as the Condor is going to take you. And I think he's that special, decisive athlete that really makes a change in what teams have to do and how they do it. And I think he's just that incredible athlete.
Well, Lincoln, the way I look at this game is, as I said, they're giving up 157 yards rushing. That's dead last. You got to run the ball. You're playing the dead last team in a category, and you're trying to get this running game going. So we'll wait for the injury report with Zamir White. Alexander Madison, two guys, Abdullah and Lobby, put the ball on the ground there. Their careers aren't over. Those were bad mistakes, but that could happen here. I got to believe this is a heavy Madison game. I got to think this is a 20 to 25 carry game for him because the Rams are giving up chunk runs like no other team in the league.
JT, what I've seen from the Rams and from the Raiders recently in the last couple of weeks is they've done better at man blocking, where they assign double teams at the point to the second level, and you're pushing people down. They've gotten more push in the run game during that point. The problem remains is that you have to have a blocking tight end that can secure the end of the line of scrimmage. And that's what the Raiders are still trying to figure out, whether it's Bryant, whether it's Bowers. Mayer is no longer with us right now, but whomever it is, somebody's got to seal the defensive end so you prevent those guys like a Condor or like a TJ Watt from coming to make plays from the outside in, if that makes sense.
I was waiting to ask you this. You saw the Monday night game where Josh Allen closed it out against the Jets because they couldn't secure the edge. Everyone in the building knew that they weren't going to put the ball in the air. They wanted to burn clock, and he was going to run. And he wasn't going to run up the middle, and the edge wasn't secure. And I remember the Justin Fields touchdown where he ran it in right in front of me, and I said, you got to secure the edge because Fields isn't going to run for a touchdown. Most likely up the middle, he's going to try to get the edge.
Absolutely.
That doesn't happen with Max. It's happening a little bit with Tyree. Lincoln, how do you coach that? You throw it up on film, you see the mistake, and then you got to go out on the field, most likely without pads, because everybody's hurt. You don't have a lot of padded practices. How do you coach that, Lincoln?
JT, defense to me is about discipline. It's easy to sit there and tell the guy, hey, go see ball, go get ball.
Yeah.
That's easy. Coaching defensively means coaching discipline. There are people that are going to be in charge of the far wide gap, the inner gaps. There are going to be two people in charge of that. They have to make sure they atone to the responsibility. The thing is that when you get away from that and you allow your eyes to play the evil agent, that's when you're looking in the backfield. You're worrying about everything else. You're going for the fake. That's what happens. You have to be disciplined. And the thing is that when you're coaching defense and you're coaching that type of option football, what seems to be making more and more of a rampant comeback, you got to make sure you have your guys decisive and disciplined and know where they're supposed to be in order to make a play.
Well, it looks like Puka's not going to play, and we're going to see what happens at practice with Cooper Kupp. I expect him to play. He's been out a while.
Certainly.
Tutu Atwell and Jordan Whittington lead the team in receiving yards. They only have one receiving touchdown all season from Demarcus Robinson, so something's got to give here. I mean, Stafford's out there to throw the ball. We got Jacorian Bennett, Jack Jones. Those guys need to have a big game. This is a ball hawk type of game. Stafford's been around, Lincoln, as you know, a long time. He'll throw a lot of 50-50 balls. He tries to throw his receivers open when they're covered here. So, I would hope a safety here in this game, maybe Merrick or Jack Jones going back to L.A. could have a big game here.
I'm hoping so. And I think if anyone needs to take notice, you understand that Jack Jones, though he is a credit in the pass defending game, he's also a liability in the run game. And the reason why is because he doesn't take the best angles playing the run game outside and from his position. So I've seen teams do this where they have collapsed in on the defensive line, the linebackers, and the secondary, the safeties, and forced Jack Jones to be on an island to tackle for himself. So expect teams to pick on that, and I think the Rams are going to go after that as well.
Lincoln, finally, we know, and I'm going to talk to Coach about it, we own L.A., the Raider Nation's biggest populated fan base is Los Angeles for a number of reasons, but we don't win well at SoFi. We play well at times, but you want to talk about a place where the Raiders come out, they got fans with them, they're really ready to go, they've gotten leads, and then the game's kind of slipped away, and that's been the story of this season. I think this is another golden opportunity. I can't say this every week on Raiders Rundown, that if we win, we'll get to 3-4. If we win, we get to 3-3. That's slipping away from me, but I will tell you, a win against a 1-4 team in a friendly environment to get to 3-4 with the rest of the league the way it is, it feels like this is the moment. The moment could have been against Pittsburgh. It slipped away. Now a short travel trip to a familiar environment where the Raiders must get a win.
JT, I just want them to win. I don't care how they get it. I don't care who they come. I just want them to win. The fact is that Jason and I have grown so tired of talking about losses, so tired of talking about how things are going well early and then for them to fall apart. I just want this team to find a way to turn it around, to find its identity, create its identity, if you will, and more importantly, find a way to put a staple win. I think it's long overdue. It hasn't happened, in my opinion, this season at all. There's been some good wins, don't get me wrong, but it hasn't happened, a staple win. I'm waiting for the Raiders to make a staple win with identity on all three phases of the ball because I know what this defense can do. I know what the special teams can do. I have yet to see what the offense consistently do. And now that we've done away with people who don't want to be here, let's get on to business. Let's find a way to win games because that's what it all comes down to, JT. Winning football games, right? Yeah. I mean, that's what we do. And we're here to cover a team winning sports events, and that's what I want to see the Raiders do. And I'm hoping that they can find a way to put it to make it happen against the Rams this weekend.
Well, last thing, Pasadena is really far away from SoFi, not far as the crow flies. Or if you have a helicopter, you got friends. But you were inducted into the Rose Bowl Hall of Fame.
Wow!
Are you going to find Are you going to find a way to get up there and see your plaque, or maybe have a cigar and walk around there? What's going on there?
Not this time, my friend. Not this time. Business as usual. When we go to SoFi, we go to LAX. I'm gonna land there and take care of business. I'll make sure I get over to the Hall of Fame sooner or later.
You got to take care, my friend. Be well.
Thanks, JT.
The great Lincoln Kennedy, man. The guy brings a lot of joy to everybody. The guy's so good at what he does, and he's so passionate. And as you said, he just wants to win. Here's our lineup. If you're watching on YouTube, as you're listening, I know I'm a radio guy, so I know we have our listeners here. The morning tailgate, 7 to 10 a.m. Rich Eisen, Raider friendly. We say that. He talks a lot of Raiders, Rich Eisen, 10 to noon. I'm on every day, noon to 2 Pacific time. And then Q Myers, Unnecessary Roughness, 2 to 5 p.m. You can listen at Raiders.com and on that Raiders app. is a great way to find the show. Coming up next, the head coach will join us, Antonio Pierce, on a big day today in the building. The arrival of Tom Brady, Davante Adams is gone, and then Levi Edwards after that from the digital team will dive into some of his matchups as the Raiders get set to take on the L.A. Rams in a game where I keep saying, not must win, you gotta win and you gotta play great. Will we find that from the Silver and Black this Sunday?
Celebrate 65 seasons of Raiders football. Be a part of our legacy with a special edition brick featuring the exclusive 65th anniversary logo. Get your brick installed at Allegiant Stadium along with a replica for your home or office. Order now and support the Raiders Foundation, benefiting military and veterans, wellness initiatives, and youth development. Secure your place in Raiders history today at RaidersFoundationBricks.com.
We welcome in head coach Antonio Pierce. Coach, an exciting day today. Tom Brady was just introduced as minority owner in the lobby. The entire organization, your team, staff, players, and football, plus the business side was there. What was that like?
That was great. It was great to see. It's kind of surreal for me, right?
Yeah.
Played against Tom, grew up with Tom in California, and just seeing him, from a player, collegiate player to an NFL player to one of the best of all time, and now minority owner. Pretty cool, to sit there and have that opportunity to talk to him throughout the weeks and pick his brain on things. Obviously, he's the ultimate winner in our sport, and I think he's a great asset to our organization.
Yeah, and it's about success in life. You're having it as a head coach where you came from to see what he's been able to do to get to this path with the Raiders.
I mean, it's cool, right?
Yeah.
To have the head coach be a former player, one of a minority owner.
Yeah.
Now be a former player, one of the winningest all-time players. I mean, I don't think you can ask for anything better.
Before we get to the Rams, let's talk about Davante and the trade to the Jets. That is now a chapter closed in this building.
Yeah, I'm excited for Davante, and I wish him the best going forward.
Okay, now as we get back to last game, you had the lead again. You had the team ready to go. They came out. Crowd was pretty intense with the Steeler fans there, and you had the lead up 7-3. The ball went on the ground a couple of times. How do you teach that to get off to the good start but sustain that energy?
Yeah, I mean, that's 2 weeks down the road. We got off to a fast start in the first quarter. I think great job by our coordinators and our coaches really buying into what we've been talking about, getting off to this fast start. And now it's getting to that second quarter. And it's been back-to-back weeks where, we have a chance to, and the score was 7-6 at the time, and we put the ball on the ground. And to the defense's credit, they did a pretty good job for sudden changes. We held them to field goals there. And then, when you just keep having either turnovers or critical penalties at the wrong time, now taking away interceptions, taking away touchdowns, you hate to say it, but, that's an opportunity for us that's where we beat ourselves at. And we just got to do a better job, and we focus on each and every week. But it's really a conscious effort by the player, the position coach, the coordinator, and myself to constantly remind these guys, man, the most important thing for us is the football. And it's always got to end in the Raiders' hands.
How was the communication up front for Aiden? It looked like the chemistry was there, blocking and picking up the blitzes. How did that look when you looked at the tape?
Yeah, I think operational, you never worry about Aiden with that.
Yeah.
I mean, he sees the game. He understands what we're doing offensively, what we want to get into. He does a great job putting us in position to make plays. I thought he executed the game plan early very well, right? Got the ball out of his hands quick. He didn't even get touched so late in that game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I thought the O-line, DJ Glaze did an outstanding job throughout. And I thought our O-line, at times when we was able to run in that, first quarter, late second quarter, we did a good job. And then we just got to maintain that level of success throughout the game.
I thought Diablo popped. He had a really good game. In Spillane's numbers, I see the numbers they give me, and he's at an historic pace in Raider history for tackles. Let's highlight your linebackers.
Yeah, man. I love watching good linebacker play, but it was really good to get Diablo back because, Robert's been carrying that load by himself, playing with different linebackers each and every week. And you saw Diablo. You saw this burst, the acceleration, the physicality. I mean, his eyes was right. He was moving like a linebacker. He was communicating. He brought another level of energy and physicality that we needed. And then obviously Robert Spillane, man, I can't say enough about what he's doing for us. Yeah. I mean, I know, the record's not what we want, but when you look at him and what he's able to do and help our defense and him individually, he's making plays, he's communicating, he's getting us in the right spot. And he's that physical and that emotional presence that we need. Everybody talks about Max Crosby, a great player, but there's always that guy that plays that Robin role that really, gets your team going in the right direction.
As we're in the middle of the week, we'll wait for the injury report. Do you feel like you're getting a little bit healthier considering what you've had to deal with the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's been tough, but, nobody's going to feel bad for us, right? Just go on, next man up mentality. But we are starting to get some guys back. We are starting to see that. And I'll tell you what, those guys are fighting. I went down there Monday and Tuesday, and they were in there in the training room and the strength and conditioning guys, and they're doing everything they can to get back. And that's positive to see. When you got 50 guys plus on a Tuesday just constantly grinding, trying to figure out how to get back on the grass and help their team out, we don't have any quit in this team, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Rams are coming off a bye week. Let me get your Sean McVay philosophy, big picture. I love doing this with you every week with the coach. You have so much respect for your opponents here, but this guy's a wizard with play calling. What do you see?
Oh, my gosh, shifts, motions.
Okay.
I mean, everything looks the same. Run, pass, play action, screen, shots. I mean, he's got one of the best quarterbacks, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, in Matthew Stafford, and he can throw any ball, any direction, any way he wants. But it's a lot of eye candy, and we have to be disciplined with that, right? You're going to get shifts. Then you're going to get a motion. Then you're going to get a pre-snap motion. Then you're going to get something post-snap as well. So we have to do a really good job of just, focusing, getting our eyes, not looking at all the stuff going on. I told our guys, don't chase waterfalls, man. If you got the key and your key is a running back, you key to running back. If it's a tight end, it's a tight end. If you're too wide, it's that guard, right? So just have focused and lasered eyes. And really on the back end, they're explosive, right? They got some guys that can really fly. We got to do a good job keeping everything and playing from top down.
Kyren Williams has 22 touchdowns going back to last year, 6 already this year. Not a lot of yards, but a guy in that red zone, they obviously key on him to get it in.
Yeah, I had to check his bio.
Yeah.
He runs like a big boy.
He does.
He's a big boy now. You got to bring your pads with him. Physical runner. They do a good job of giving him different looks from the wide zone, the toss. But even when he runs inside, man, he's running downhill fast, and there's no fair dodging. Like I told our guys, man, we got to strap up, and you got to really wrap up and bring your hips when you tackle this running back.
You don't know if you'll see Cooper Kupp, but he's trying to play in this game. What a player. 2 years ago, he had one of the greatest seasons of all time.
Yeah.
And is that one of those guys in the shift and motion that you really got to keep an eye on him because he can catch the ball at the line of scrimmage like Brock, or he can get sneaky behind you?
And he can block. I mean, the way they use him for everything. I mean, they do everything with him. I mean, he's like our Jacoby Myers, right? Does everything for us. But a really good player. Not saying I'm looking forward to seeing him play, but if he does, we're prepared and we're studying for him as well. But I think, you always appreciate what your opponents are able to do, but you don't fear them, right? Sure. So I think for us is understand who we got. If Cooper Kupp is all right, if it's Puka, whoever's coming, we got to be ready for him. And at the end of the day, I always go back to it. It's always about the Raiders, man. Just do our job. Keep our focus, keep our leverage, keep our eyes in the right spot, and then when there's an opportunity to make the play, we need to make them.
Finally, they're dead last in rushing defense, 157 a game. And it seems like they bait you. You want to run the ball. You're trying to get your running backs healthy. Keep the ball, hold the ball, don't turn it over. This is an opportunity to really run it against this opponent.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the last 2 weeks. When we've dedicated to the running game and stay with it and been consistent and get our O-line going forward right away, we do a pretty good job of that. And we can't get discouraged when there's a negative play. I mean, that's going to happen in the course of a game, but just stick with it. Not so much worry about what their rush defense is because we're not the best rushing team, but we got to be consistent with it, right? And our running backs say, if there's a hole, we got to let it rip and hit it. And I like to see what we've done, and you see it with Jackson Powers and some of our other linemen finishing near the runner, right? I mean, if it's either diving over the pile or if it's pushing the pile forward, whatever we can to gain every yard we need.
Last one, you know as good as anyone. We own L.A., but we don't own SoFi. So we own L.A., we know that, and that's not going to change. But how do you get a win at SoFi? Because the fans are there, and they're going to be there for you.
Yeah, listen, I'm going to go back to it. It's key. The football always has to end in the Raiders' hands. We got to stop with the turnovers. It's enough already. I told our team enough is enough. Protect the football. That's our livelihood. Play sound football for 4 quarters. And what you're going to see from this team, and I'm telling you right now, is effort, energy, discipline, and physicality. And that's what we got to be. That's who I am. Shame on me for not maybe sitting here telling you that each and every week in our fans, and I'm hoping that our team shows up and does that Sunday.
Good luck, Coach.
Thank you.
Have a good one, Coach. Thank you. There's nothing better than being a Raider fan and walking out of a stadium with a victory.
He is one of those guys that I would hate to have played against because he's not going to give up.
As he grabbed Gardner Minshew and said, "We got your back." That was leadership.
That black hole, we're counting on you. We're going to kick off right to you. Wherever we go, we're going right to you guys.
Welcome back to Raiders Rundown. Levi Edwards joins us from the digital team on a big day. I want to thank the coach, Antonio Pierce. He gave us a lot there. Big day in the building here as the Raiders get set to take on the Rams on Sunday. And Levi, the Davante Adams chapter is closed. You covered his career in depth. He had a really good run here. He put up some numbers. He has a Hall of Fame career going. But this will be an opportunity for several young wide receivers to step up.
Most definitely. Davante Adams obviously has the franchise record for receiving yards, so he did some damage while he was here. However, now with this chapter being closed, all you can do now is look forward to the future. And who's the future? That is number 13 pick, Brock Bowers, who is currently, statistically as we speak, the best tight end in the NFL right now. He ranks top of the league in, I believe, receptions, receiving yards, catch radius, as well as a lot of other statistics right now. So really he's going to be the guy that they're going to really feature heavily moving forward. Another stat that a lot of people don't look at a lot is yards after catch. I believe he has 216 yards after catch. So really what he's doing right now within his career, as young as he is has really been unbelievable.
Let's stay on that because I think it's very important as we're watching on YouTube, if you're listening, that Brock, we can't let Brock disappear for a game or two. This is a guy now that we've seen every catch. We've seen him over the middle of the field, take it to the house. We've seen him near the red zone. I mean, he needs more red zone targets, no doubt. But he can catch it. He can toe tap. He can do it all. He can block. So if we're going to say feature him, what do you mean by that? Because I think 10 to 12 targets is what wide receivers, elite wide receivers get. I think he can handle that many targets. I think he could come into every game plan with 10 to 12 targets and leave with 9 to 10 receptions.
I would say when you say the word feature him, not even just as a receiver, because with his skill set, he can do a little bit of everything, and we've seen that so far within his NFL career. Very young, fresh NFL career, but we've seen that, and also what we've seen at Georgia, where he's a guy that can do a lot with jet sweeps. He can block. He can go out and catch, whether it's long, intermediate, short routes. He can do all of that when it comes to the route tree. I believe he's currently averaging 5 yards of separation per route, which is insane. For a rookie tight end to be coming in and getting 5 yards of separation each route is insane for him to be able to do that so early in his career. So really not even just in the pass game in terms of getting vertical, but be featured in other places because obviously his yards after catch, his will, to stay up after first contact is huge. So really you got to give him the ball any kind of way to give him space, to make plays.
I was disappointed that Trey Tucker didn't get a catch in a game where I thought he was going to be pivotal because Jacoby was out. That was before Davante was traded. Where did he get lost in the mix in that game? Because obviously I would think that maybe they didn't have enough time to set up the deep route, but a lot of times he can get open and you want to test the deep ball to set it up later in the game or maybe get a flag. How was he not relevant in that last game against Pittsburgh?
There's a lot of reasons as to why he potentially might have not been relevant. At me, I'm not necessarily a coach, but the Steelers' defense is very good. Very good defense that the Raiders just played. And the game plan looked to try to get the ball out as quick as possible to limit T.J. Watt and Cam Hayward and those guys getting pressure on Aiden. So he's trying to get the ball out very quickly, try to look for those short intermediate routes. Trey Tucker is more of a speed guy, more of a deep route playmaker. However, I don't think that's necessarily an excuse. I think with Trey Tucker, with the speed and the ability for him to get open as he has, you got to use him on a little bit more than just jet sweeps and your occasional, trick play here or there. I think he's a guy that could really become that primary outside receiver next to Jacoby Myers.
Tell us about Jared Verse. He's statistically showing up. There's no more Aaron Donald for the Rams here, and they got a lot of players that are injured, similar to the Raiders. But the matchup that he could have here with Bowers and the rest of the Raiders' offense, what type of player is he?
He's someone that's very bendy, he can shift in a lot of different ways. Obviously, in that defense, he's used as an outside linebacker. He was more of a defensive end when he was at Florida State. But he's a guy that is a grinder. He grinded his way from Albany State, became one of the top FCS prospects, in the nation, transferred to Florida State, did what he did as a 2-time All-American there, came to the Rams, filled damn near impossible shoes with Aaron Donald, where I don't think any defensive tackle in history might ever fill Aaron Donald's shoes. But he's come in and he's been able to add production to that Rams defense that desperately needs it. Already won NFL Defensive Player of the Month last month for what he's been able to do. So he's a guy, while he's not going to necessarily have that direct matchup with Brock Bowers, these are two rookies that I would say mean just as much to their unit as the other. So their production side by side is going to be very imperative for who wins this game.
Yeah, he's a motor guy, too, and a guy who finds his way around the football. Very good story. Thanks for the background. That's why we have Levi on. His digital work, his deep dives, his journalism is fantastic. I want to go to Max Crosby against Matthew Stafford. Stafford knows where Max is. He's one of the best veteran quarterbacks still left in this league. He's got arm angles. He does not want to take hits from Max Crosby. So I think Max, this is one of those quarterbacks where Max could get frustrated because he could beat his opponent, get around, and Stafford feels him with his experience, and then the ball's going to come out. He'll throw it away or he'll check it down. Give me the matchup here and what Max is looking to do against this Rams O-line.
Well, I believe that Max is in line to have a really good game. He's going up against a tackle that I believe has allowed 2.5 sacks and 13 pressures through 5 games, I believe, with Rob Haverstein, a veteran tackle. So he's going to have a really good matchup against him. And obviously, Matt Stafford, veteran quarterback. He's never been deemed as a rushing quarterback ever in his career, and especially now. So he's a guy that you can confine to the pocket. Another fun fact, I really think that this is going to be a great game for Max Crosby in the sense of just his joy to be out in the field, considering that in a former life, Max Crosby, a Michigan native, grew up a Lions fan, and he's previously spoken with me and other people about how much he grew up watching Matt Stafford and appreciating his game with the Lions. So I think for him, it's going to be a really cool moment for the second time now in his NFL career, first time since his rookie season, to go up against a quarterback that he actually looked up to as a young kid.
I watched a recent Brian Baldinger breakdown of Max. He always breaks down the Condor, and he's getting tripled now. He's not getting doubled. He's getting doubled at the line of scrimmage and chipped, and he is really trying to fight off multiple football players on every play. And a lot of that had to do with Christian Wilkins and Malcolm Kuntz being gone for the year. Have you seen, as you broke down the tape, a frustration level? Because I think at times it's not as easy as it was the last couple of years. And it's never easy. But he had some clean breaks early in the year last year, and now they're not as clean because offensive coordinators are spending their entire week preparing for Max Crosby going into every game plan.
Like you said, those injuries don't help. When you have a Malcolm Kuntz and a Christian Wilkins next to you, those offensive linemen are going to account for them. And so now that you have a lot of these offensive lines and these coordinators that are specifically game planning for Max, they're not really necessarily worried about these other guys who are stepping in as much. If they feel like if we can stop Crosby, then that's going to be the game plan and we're going to win. So it's really going to come down to these other really key pieces like a John Jenkins or a Adam Butler, Tyree Wilson, first-round draft pick last year, Charles Snowden, who's come in and made some really big plays so far.
Yes.
You're going to need those guys. Matthew Butler, who I think has been playing pretty well despite the penalty that he had, the roughing the passer. I think that those are the guys that need to step up because once those guys are playing at the top of their level, at the best of their abilities, it's going to take less pressure off Max, and it's going to generate more pressure to those guys so Max can have those single matchups, those double teams, and really just kind of dominate on those.
Well, I know Sean McVay cannot be happy that they're dead last in rushing defense, giving up over 157 a game. A lot of times when I break down games and I try to preview them, I look at the obvious. Let's start with the obvious. How many rushing yards do you give up? Passing yards do you give up? How many points do you score a game? I look at this number and I say Alexander Madison, or depending on Zamir White, have to have a big day. This is a team similar to the Raiders who have been accused of poor tackling. They give up chunk plays in the rushing game. And when you give up over 150 a game, that's more than a trend. That's who they are, and they don't have Aaron Donald. So I would hope that the game plan for the Raiders on offense, as much as we want to get Brock going and getting Aiden going, is pound the football here. That could help with clock, time of possession, and maybe some big chunk rushing yards and long touchdowns.
I agree. And Alexander Madison, since he's joined the team, he's been the veteran presence. He's a guy that was kind of assumed to be this backup role behind Zamir White, but he's really established himself, and he's a guy that had a lot of snaps in Minnesota. He's come and he really has the ability to read those holes and really gravitate towards making those big plays, whether it's in the rushing game or in the passing game. So I really like what I've seen from him so far. In addition to the run game, obviously starting to become a little bit more ramped up is the performance of those guards. You have Jackson Powers-Johnson, who's coming in, and he's been playing really well, despite the penalties. Dylan Parham, I think, has been playing really well. Those two guards right there have been doing, in my opinion, a really good job of run blocking, and that's why the first couple of games of the season, you see the Raiders having under 100 rushing yards, really struggling, and now they're starting to flourish a little bit with Madison and those two guards, and obviously DJ Glaze is doing a really good job on the outside. So really it's just been a team, a collective team effort from everyone in terms of really getting after the run, and when you're facing a Rams defense like this that gives up chunk plays, you have to attack it.
Yeah, I'm happy you mentioned DJ Glaze. You were the first person to tell me about him when I saw him come in here, but when I got to Costa Mesa, I pulled you aside and I said, tell me about a couple of players, and you were like, DJ Glaze. You say, wait till you see this guy play, because Thayer Munford went out for a practice, and then he came in there. And take me back to that practice where you saw him step up. He went up against Max. He played really well. And then the buzz around Costa Mesa was, we got some guy who could start if necessary, and now he's played really well.
Yeah, he had a lot of really big pivotal snaps against Max Crosby in training camp. It was the first padded practice. They're out there, they're doing individual drills and, nothing too serious, very routine stuff. And then Thayer kind of jams his hand up a little bit. I think it was either his hand or his wrist, and he goes out, and then DJ has to step in, first snap on individual drills, and he has to go up against Max Crosby. And that's not an easy feat by any point. And he held his own and really gained his respect and a lot of the other defensive linemen's respect. And so you go into that first padded practice, you're supposed to get some backup reps, kind of go against second, third team guys. And then lo and behold, over the span of 2-3 weeks, now you're your first string right tackle as a rookie. So that's a lot. And so I think that experience and what he had to go through, especially at that time early within the offseason, has really helped him now to where I believe he did not surrender a single pressure to TJ Watt in the entire Steelers game. TJ Watt is a future Hall of Famer.
Sure.
And you are a rookie right tackle, and you didn't allow a pressure or a sack to this man. So all credit to him and what he's been able to do.
Finally, I told this to Coach, and he got it because he's from Compton, and the Raiders own L.A., but they don't own SoFi. There's been a lot of traumatic losses in that building, a lot of weird stuff that's happened there, the thunderstorm lightning that rolled in and stopped the game, the Baker Mayfield had the playbook for less than 24 hours game, Justin Herbert versus the Raiders. The Raiders own the crowd there. They own, and I don't care about winning the tailgate because the Raiders win the tailgate out at SoFi, but you got to bring that energy into the game and sustain it. So another opportunity. When the schedule came out, you and I looked at it and said, wins, where are we going to win? We got 2 opportunities to win at SoFi. Lost the first one to open up the season. It feels like a must-win to get to 3-4 and have something really looking forward to as Kansas City comes in.
Yeah, it's just a very interesting. I was almost catching a little bit of PTSD while you were talking about some of those games, especially the Baker Mayfield 48-hour game and things like that. The season opener in 2022 against the Chargers with Davante's first game. A lot of weird stuff has happened in SoFi. The team has not won a game in SoFi Stadium since their first game ever in SoFi Stadium in 2020, and there was no fans there in attendance. So they've been on a 5-game slide since, and it's very it's weird how this team has not been able to win a game in there, especially with the amount of fans that come out to those games at SoFi and LA. I'm not going to go on record and say anything crazy like the Raiders own LA or anything like that. I'm going to respect.
I'll do that. Yeah,
you can do that
for you.
But with respect, there's a lot of fans that come out to those games and they're very supportive. So it's very weird how they can't get the job done, but this is going to be a grand opportunity, especially against a Rams team that's kind of on the ropes a little bit. So there's going to be a lot of Raiders fans, as there usually always is at SoFi Stadium, and I'm really curious to see if they can come out with their first win. I can see my first win as the Raiders team reporter in SoFi Stadium in my career.
All right, I'm going to leave you on the spot here. Key to the game. Give me one player that you think can go in there and have a monster game and secure a victory for the Raiders.
Trey Tucker. I believe
Whoa,
it. Yeah,
I like that.
We talked about him earlier.
Okay.
You brought him up. I believe if Trey Tucker, if he can do some things, not even just in the passing game, but also just get a couple of nice outside runs, things of that nature, really use his speed, really use his ability to get open, I think he could really unlock the potential for the Raiders, especially if we can pass protect, and give Aiden enough time to really make adequate throws and look down the field. I think Trey Tucker could have a great game and be the X factor for the Raiders this Sunday.
Thank you for coming in studio.
Thank you.
There he is, the great Levi Edwards from our digital team here. Check out all of his work here as we get ready to roll. Now I take a look at our rundown for Raider Nation Radio as we look at morning tailgate 7 to 10. Vinny Bonsignor, Clay Baker, they do an unbelievable job. And the newest member, Vince Sapienza, the Rich Eisen Show from 10 to noon. I'm on every day, noon to 2. And Unnecessary Roughness with Q Myers, who is always in the building here. So I want to thank everybody for watching this hour Raiders Rundown. We turned this into a television show on ABC here locally in Vegas after college football. Love being around town, being out and seeing the show on TV. Want to thank everyone at Silver and Black Productions for putting this together. And then remind everybody I got my own YouTube channel, JT the Brick, YT for YouTube. Please go there, subscribe for free, and check out my radio shows every day when I'm not in the building or especially when I'm here, all the content. I'm going to remember today. Today was a really big day. The coach was fantastic. Look, this team's been going through a difficult time. The Davante Adams situation now has been resolved. We'll have a long time, years to debate the compensation, his legacy here. But the Raiders got to go win a game now. They got to go win for the fans in Los Angeles and the fans of the Raider Nation, home and on the road. There's a very important moment. We've seen the Raiders play some average football. Now we need a good football game. Start to finish. Start, get a lead, finish strong, win the game. A win will do wonders for this. Tom Brady walked into this building this morning. The entire organization heard him speak. He's the greatest winner in the history of this league, the NFL, and now he's a minority owner with this organization. You can see it in the eyes of the staff, the players, the coaches. This is part of a historic day here, but we got to win a game. And the game is against the Rams, who are 1-4. The Raiders now sitting here at 2-4 can climb back into this. There's a lot of 2-4 teams out there, 1-win teams out there, but the Raiders finally got to turn this season around. No better place to do it than in Los Angeles, a former home of the Raiders where millions of Raider fans live, and many will be at the game there to support this team. So for everyone at Silver and Black Productions, I'm JT. Remember, Raiders.com for all of our programming and our shows on Raider Nation Radio, which you can get on the Raiders mobile app. Hour number 2 coming up, and this is Raiders Rundown.